The Soldier by Shadow Swimmer 77. I can hear the screams of men and gunfire. I can smell their fear. They know something is in the dark. Something strange, menacing, and very, very hungry. I wake up trembling in a cold sweat, sheets tangled around my legs. I look across the bed to the nightstand, the green LED lights telling me it's 4:30 a.m. It was the dream again. The same dream. I glance reproachfully at the remains of a fifth of a whiskey bottle, and a half-empty bottle of sleeping pills lying on its side by the clock. They've never kept the nightmare from me before, but I still have hope. It's just a question of finding the right quantity. My hands are still shaking. I grab the bottle and take a healthy swallow, then drop it empty to the puke green colored carpet that passes as decoration in my bedroom. It burns, but that's just fine. I know I'll never get back to sleep, and with only another 30 minutes before I set my alarm to wake me up anyway, I throw on coffee and jump into the shower. It's cold, and that's just fine too. I stand there, arms bracing me against the wall, head bowed under the frigid stream of water, and try to forget. I stay like that for several long minutes. Finally, when my skin is practically blue, I get out and towel off, shivering from the chill. My name is Michael Landry, and today I'm a high school history teacher at the Haverbrook Prep School on the main line outside Philadelphia. The shower is just what I needed. Already the vivid horrors of my dream have begun to slowly fade back into subconsciousness. I know all too well that they'll be back in full force when I finally manage to drift off to sleep tonight. But even this slight reprieve is welcome. I look into the mirror and decide the dark bags under my eyes can be attributed as much as a genuine lack of sleep as my ill-advised bender. I quickly run a razor over through the stubble of my beard and briefly attempt to tame the mop of brown hair still sticking up at odd angles. Not too long ago, I'd gotten reprimanded if it was half this length. I return to the bedroom and dress in the black slacks and grey button-down shirt that has become my unofficial teaching uniform. I've worn one uniform or another for most of my life and consider it a shameful waste of time to spend too much effort worrying about what you wear. Moving to the kitchen, I decide to take advantage of my unexpected time this morning and scramble some ham and eggs to complete my coffee. I note that, besides the few remaining eggs and a half-eaten package of assorted lunch meat, my refrigerator is virtually bare, not counting the 3-day expired carton of milk and 2 cases of beer. I grimace at the trash can still sitting there next to the refrigerator, currently overflowing with empty takeout containers. Slapping the egg meat concoction between 2 slices of only slightly stale bread, I throw on my black pea coat to ward off the chill November air, grab my thermos, throw yesterday's graded quizzes into my valet, and head to the door. Gripping the coffee and valet under my arms and the sandwich in my mouth, I punch the 6-digit code into my state-of-the-art security system. I step outside and fumble with my keys to work the 3 separate deadbolts securing the giant steel slab that serves as a front door to my first-floor apartment. All these extra precautions might seem a bit much, but Overbrook makes up for its insanely cheap rent with an even more astounding crime and murder rate. With that in mind, I probably would have considered upgrading my security even if events 3 years ago hadn't shown me exactly how many scary things existed in this world. That experience is what also prompted me to start carrying the tiny Glock currently concealed in my ankle holster. I'm on good terms with Gabe Parr, the aging head of the security at school, who generally shares my view on gun control. Make sure you're the one with control of the gun. Gabe had been enlisted 20 years in the Army, just missing the tail end of Vietnam and retiring as a master sergeant following the first Gulf War. Sounded like a cross between Sam Elliott and Ernie McDermott. He's all NCO, crusty, hard-bitten, and essentially every platoon sergeant I've ever known rolled into one. Even after finding out that Haverbrook had no weapon searches to speak of, I revealed to Gabe that I carried shortly after the job. I reasoned his position would make him the most likely person to find my gun during the course of a normal workday. To my surprise, he was completely supportive. I would later learn some of the circumstances behind Gabe's enlightened opinions. On one occasion we had gone out for drinks. He confided in me that his youngest son Billy had been killed 2 years earlier. His boy had been 16 and carrying $5 on the way home from evening basketball practice when he was approached by a strung-out junkie looking to score some quick cash. The lone witness to the crime said the druggie took the money, then, apparently angry that his efforts had been wasted, shot the boy out of spite. Unfortunately, the witness had been unable to clearly identify the junkie's features in the gathering dark. The murderer was never caught. Suddenly, Gabe's unique perspective became crystal clear. The walk from the train station to Haverbrook is a short one. Then I find myself walking past this large asphalt parking lot and up the wide cement-lined path to the main entrance just a few minutes past 6. The entire building is a study in architectural extravagance. Enormous granite archways, steepled turrets, and literal tons of red-brown brick make the whole gala resemble more of an exclusive postgraduate university than a college prep school. The official seal is carved into the peak of the entryway arch. Its motto, Mens Corpus Animus, proudly emblazoned beneath. I spot Gabe as I pass through the archway into the entry hall. He's manning the main door himself, as he does every morning. Once during my first year, I asked him why. "Mark," he told me, "I man the front because when the shit hits, I wanted to go through me first. 20 years in, through more action I can remember, ain't anything in this world can walk through that door that I ain't fought, fucked, or blown up more'n twice. So while some greenhorn's busy pissing himself, I've already drawn and put 10 rounds in that motherfucker's center of mass." I couldn't argue with his logic. "Morning, Gabe. How's it going?"
Not so bad, Mike. Only sorta wanted to gnaw through my arm at the elbow when I woke up and saw my wife number 3 this morning. Still a marked improvement over the last one."
He spits into the used styrofoam coffee cup he has perpetually in hand, a huge wad of tobacco wedged in his lower lip. "Good to hear. We still on for hitting the bar tonight?"
"Depends. You still drink that Yuengling bullshit?"
"You know it."
"When you gonna give that shit up and move to a real American beer? Like Bud?"
"Gabe, we've been over this 100 times. Yuengling is American. It's brewed in Pennsylvania. Hey, not that I care, but didn't the dean tell you not to dip on the job anymore?"
"Sure did. And I don't. Just don't any less neither. Pick you up at 9.
After receiving my discharge from the Army, I got in a pretty bad way. Chronic alcohol abuse will do that to you. I applied to Haverbrook in response to a notice that they were looking for about a social studies teacher specializing in military history. I figured dropping my name into that particular hat couldn't hurt. Imagine my surprise when not only did the school ask me in for an interview a few days later, but ended it by offering me the job. Fortunately, only riding a slight buzz at the time, I had enough control to take it. Apparently, the school board saw a West Point graduate and overseas combat experience as enough to move me ahead of the dozen or so certified academics I was in direct competition with. 2 older board members with prior experience made the case for hiring me to the other 8, stating that no one else was better qualified to teach military history than someone who had actually seen combat. They argued competent professional educators would always be available at the worst case scenario. The board could fire me after a semester and hire one of them. I won't say that the Haverbrook job was exactly what I needed to get my life back on track. It's just a job. albeit one with a good salary and better benefits. It serves two purposes: pay the rent and keep me in booze. That's all. I won't say the one simple act of getting a job made me get along with my landlord. My nightmares disappear or the world a better place for everyone to live in. It didn't. My landlord, Mr. Peekamy, is still a prick, which I attribute to a gracious level of inbreeding. My dreams only become worse, more horrifying with each retelling. My men are still dead. Officially founded in the 1900s, Haverbrook can actually claim history back to pre-evolutionary times, when one-room schoolhouse stood on the very spot. That first tiny structure only occupied one small corner of the total grounds allotted to the school, which actually encompass almost 20 square miles of rolling wooded terrain. The athletic compound is by far my favorite building in the Haverbrook, specifically because one of the many perks associated with being a faculty member is unrestricted access to any and all of the equipment at the facilities. Since I no longer have 2 hours of physical training scheduled into my day-to-day by the government, this fact alone has allowed me to stave off the approaching effects of middle age. Today is the last day of school before Thanksgiving break, so I decided to go for a run after class lets out. It's the perfect kind of weather for it, mid-50s and no breeze. Just warm enough not to start out cold, just cool enough not to easily overheat. The main gymnasium contains a locker room for faculty use, complete with a small bank of washers and dryers. Such amenities are convenient since they mean I don't need to be constantly transporting workout clothes back and forth on the train. Distance melts away as the ground speeds beneath my feet. Most days I try to put 5 or 6 miles on the winding forest paths, and there are enough of them that I only need to repeat routines every couple weeks. Today is one of the more difficult trails I frequent. 5¼ miles of almost constant elevation change. About halfway into the run, my legs are burning and I feel my breathing shorten as I near the top of a particularly brutal hill. I pause at the summit for a moment to look back and take in the view. Vast acres of untamed wilderness stretch beneath me. The crisp snap to the air makes everything seem somehow sharper, but in doing so only accentuates the gray deadness that has insidiously leached into every aspect of the environment. Hazy, translucent clouds rise in front of the pale sun that seems a shadow of its normal self. It sets very early in the day now, and the shadows are already long. The deciduous trees that blaze like a campfire in the autumn rise up below me, now eerily foreboding in their stark nakedness. The faintest hint of wind stirs the branches. The passing causes the trees to sway and groan with almost malicious intent. I feel a shiver trickle down my spine that has nothing to do with the weather. These woods are from the darkest of fairy tales. These are woods that are alive. Only the distant 3rd floor of the Haverbrook Library, just peeking up over the top of the trees, serves as proof that I haven't been unwittingly transported to some magical doorway into a land populated by creatures terrible and unknown. Unbidden, my thoughts turn to memories of another time, another darkness, and the things I found there. Disturbed, I start running again, faster than before, the sun slipping closer to the horizon. As I descend from my vantage point back into the trees, the darkness grows rapidly deeper, the shadows thicker. This can't be right. Even in winter, the sun doesn't set this quickly. Does it? Appearing out of nowhere, thick black storm clouds have replaced the wispy grayness I observed only moments ago. Deep peals of thunder ride wicked through the seething black seas above. The wind, once only a faint whisper, has become a tormented scream, the death cry of a wild beast. The trees no longer gently sway, but thrash and buck wildly as if to try to uproot themselves from the very earth that holds them. Massive sheets of icy rain begin to pelt down from the heavens, soaking me through to the bone. Instantaneously, a mild afternoon has been replaced by a savage tempest. I fly down the hill, the storm raging about me. Branches seem to reach out and snatch out of my arms. Roots and stones rise to tangle my feet. Suddenly, an incredible blast of pain ignites my right shoulder, sending stars shooting across my eyes. I cry out, tumbling to the ground. As I roll, a jagged stump appears in my vision. Too fast to avoid. Pain. Blackness. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. And if you're an animal lover like me, please consider donating to the World Land Trust, a charity that aims to help wildlife through buying land, preventing development, and helping endangered species.